moving into the new paradigm, it all starts with surrender. Now, I want to tell you a story, and that story is this. When I first went to law school, my first semester I made all C's. I think it was 5. I made 5 C's. I didn't make any C minuses. I didn't make any C plus, no B's, A's, or F's. All C's. Well, I knew I wasn't doing that well, but I didn't think I was doing that bad either. And so I just was determined to do a lot better. But some of you might think I'm a dummy, okay, because I made 5 C's in my first semester of law school. Well, I want to tell you a quick little side story before we get on with the rest of that. And the side story is this. I was born in a little town in Colorado called La Junta, L-A-J-U-N-T-A. Some people call it La Junta, or it's La Junta. It's the county seat of Otero County, and the Coshari tribe's there. It used to be a Santa Fe Railroad switching station. My grandpa was there. I loved that town. But I was born there, and the hospital was also a sanitarium. Yeah, in the day. The hospital was also a sanitarium where they put people that were nuts. And so when people say, hey, Galiga, you're nuts. Well, one of the things I tell them, I said, no, I'm not nuts. I have lost my mind, but God replaced my mind with his mind. The other thing I tell them is, I say, listen, you know, where I was born in La Junta, it was not only a hospital, it was a sanitarium. And every single patient, even if you were a week old, to get out of there, to get discharged, you had to have a doctor's signature that said you were sane, S-A-N-E. And so what I'm telling you is I got my paperwork that says I'm sane. Where's yours? That's what my mom taught me to tell me. So I got my paperwork that says I'm sane. Where's yours? The point of this story is that when I was in law school, the second semester, I took a course at Kansas University called Appellate Advocacy. This is where you argue an appellate brief to a mock judge, 3 judges actually, and an appellant and an appellee. It's an appellate case where it goes through the court and one side wins and one side loses and you appeal it to the next level. It's called an appellate case. So I actually prayed. I couldn't believe I did this. I didn't do it before and didn't do it after. I can't believe I did that either. But I prayed. I said, God, hey, I'm dedicating this course to you. There's a purpose of this story. I'm dedicating this course to you. This is all yours, and God, I'm asking you for an A in this course, not for me, but for you. I'm going to give you all the credit, all the glory, all that stuff. So I really prayed about that. I prayed through the semester. So we got all the way up to the oral arguments that day. And I told God I would not slough off. I'd do all the work. I would not slough off. I would work harder than anybody there. But I knew I wasn't A material. And I had to have his supernatural anointing, supernatural power to get even to sniff an A, much less get one. And in this course, I think there were 30 students in my class, and I'd be shocked if there was more than 1 A, maybe 2. But anyway, it was very difficult, almost impossible to get an A. So anyway, I prayed about that. So the day of the oral arguments came, the evening actually, and I went in the courtroom and I sat down, and the 3 judges were there, and there's the podium where you argue a case. And so my opponent, it was a female, very smart lady, and she started to argue. She had 15 minutes. I call it 15 minutes in the flame. It was unbelievable. It was like a Gatling gun just blasting. I remember sitting there going, oh, Lord. I mean, it was like watching a massacre. It was ugly, and she was brilliant. And so I'm sitting there nervously flipping pages, reading cases, going, oh, God, I mean, this is terrible. And then I heard this voice, and this is the voice that you're going to start hearing when you journal and when you draw close to God and you need a job and he's giving you direction and breaking away and making a way where there is no way. Well, I heard this voice. It was a small, quiet voice at first, and it said Castleberry versus State. And I just blew it off, and I was flipping pages and listening to her and watch her getting blown away up there at the lectern. And it came back, Castleberry versus State. I blew it off again, and I was flipping pages. It came back a third time. And it said, Castleberry versus State, Castleberry versus State, Castleberry versus State. And I go, whoa, man, that's the voice. I've heard this before. If you haven't spent time together with us together here, sometimes the voice of the living God is audible. It's probably 10, 12 times it's happened to me. The rest of the time it's just impressed right here. The result's the same. You know it's him. But that time it was audible, for real. And I go, oh my God, that's the voice. It's the voice of the living God. Castleberry versus State. So I looked down and I had about 30 seconds before she was done and I was in the flame. And so I flipped alphabetically to Castleberry versus State. I had a really extensive brief, and I had one-page mini briefs of everything. I read the one-page mini brief, and when I got to the last line of the mini brief, bam! They said, "Counselor, you're up." So I got up, I went up to the lectern, and I had prepared 20 transitional phrases. So their job is to blow you away, like in the first 2 minutes of the 15. Cut you off, kill your oxygen, and watch you puke and die behind the lectern. And just lock up like an engine without oil on a hot summer day. So I had all these transitional phrases, had 20 of them. And when they interrupt you, you go, "I'm glad you asked that, Your Honor," and that's a great thing. And as I was saying, and 20 things like that, well, it's like 2 minutes into it, I've used all 20 transitional phrases. I'm out of transitional phrases. This is a disaster. I don't even have transitional phrases, so I decided to just use them again. So I started going like a machine gun. I started going through the transitional phrases. It was unbelievable. And the two judges were on this side, and there was one judge in the middle. And you know what I noticed? I noticed that the two judges were female, and they were asking me these questions, and they were getting harder, and each question was 50% harder than the last one. They were ratcheting it up like I was on a rack, and they were just stretching me out, waiting for me to snap and die. And so I'm into this thing for of the 15 minutes, 7 or 8 minutes. These questions are from hell. And I can't believe that I'm answering them. I'm hanging on with one fingernail for life, and one after another, they're coming at me, and somehow I'm answering them. And I noticed something that was very disturbing. I noticed that the main judge, the man who was sitting between these two women judges, never looked up. He only looked down. He never once looked at me, and I thought, he's the Terminator. They bring him in after the heavy metal softened me up. He's the killer. He takes no prisoners. He's the Terminator from hell. And he's going to come and get me when they've worn me out. There's nothing left. So on they go. Harder and harder and harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. And I'm just barely hanging on. It's like I'm getting shot. And then there's 1 minute left, the very last 1 minute, which, by the way, is the title of my next book, The Very Last 1 Minute. It'll be out soon. But anyway, he looks up. His name is Professor Martin Dickinson, smartest man I've ever met to this day. He's still there, University of Kansas. Look him up. He teaches income tax law. He's incredibly brilliant. So he finally looks up. He looks up. Just the fact that he looked up at me was enough to kill most people. Just his eyeballs meeting your eyeballs was enough to blast you into the back wall. Yeah. And so he looked at me, and I thought, here it comes. It's the end. I always wondered how I would die. It's all over. I mean, I fought a brilliant fight. I mean, I've answered questions that I never thought I would answer in a zillion years. I'm almost there. I can almost touch it. It's like, and he has pulled out the nuclear weapon from hell. That this question that he's going to ask is so tough. It's so tough. He can't even answer it. It's that tough. It's unbelievably impossible to answer this question. Everybody in the room knows it. This is the question that no one can answer, not a supercomputer, no one. And so he looks at me with those eyes. I'm hanging on like this. If he had asked me my name, "Mike Galiga, what is your name?" I could not have answered it. I was completely spent. I didn't know my own name. I was so weak. I'm standing there and he goes, "Counselor," that's his first word he said. It's 14 and a half minutes into this thing. "Counselor," he said, "Counselor, how do you differentiate the case before us with Castleberry versus State?" And I thought, I'm standing there like this, and I have this look. He thought he's looking at me going, he's dead. He's terminal. It's only a few seconds before he actually falls over and we have to resuscitate him with the paramedics. is completely over because there's not a human on the planet, not even anybody on the law school staff. The tenured professors couldn't answer this question. This is the question. See, they have to break everybody. If they don't break you, they don't know who to give the A to. These people are so smart there. I was not in their league, I'm telling you. And so they have to break everybody because if anybody finishes, well, that's who's going to get the A.